What's up y'all, Talon here. Today I'm excited to be sharing another series of high level ranked battles featuring top teams. This time we have a team that was able to go undefeated 7-0 in the first day of competition at the first Regulation E IRL grassroots tournaments, the Beastcoast LAN. I was piloted by Thomas Hayden, Tom Hayden 27. I have his YouTube and Twitter account linked in the description below if you want to check him out. But yeah, this was his team. He was able to go undefeated in a really stacked tournament in the East Coast with some old school picks. Actually, no Pokemon added from the Teal Mask DLC are present on this team. 4 of the Trick Room Pokemon have been around since, Regulation A, and then the Urshifu and the Ursaluna. The 2 bears added in Regulation D, but nothing from the Teal Mask Regulation E rule set. Despite that, it has a lot of really smart calls specifically tailored to the Regulation E format, which I'll go into in a little bit. But if you enjoyed this team as a resource, if you want to take it to the Battle Stadium ladder, I have the Pokebase with the EV spreads as well as the rental code in the top right of the video. Please subscribe if you appreciate the effort it takes to recreate these teams in game. And with all that being said, let's get into a breakdown of the team. Starting off, we have the Armarouge and the Indeedee combination. They do often come as a pair, usually in the lead. So generally you'll have the Indeedee go for Follow Me while the Armarouge is able to set up Trick Room, and then the Psychic Surge ability setting up Psychic Terrain enables Armarouge on the following turns of Trick Room to go for a 120 base power expanding force, which is now spread. Coming off the Twisted Spoon and Armarouge's very high special attack stat that's doing incredible damage. And just to comment on some of the finer details of this, Armarouge does also have Trick Room. Both have Trick Room, so in some circumstances, if your opponents are not able to apply a lot of pressure, if they go for something like a double protect early on in the Trick Room turns, you can actually go for a Trick Room with both of your Pokemon, Armarouge and Indeedee, or Hatterene whenever we get to that. But yeah, if you have 2 Trick Room users on the field, you can actually go for Trick Room twice and completely reset to 4 turns of remaining Trick Room again, which is a really cool option. For moves on the Armarouge, yeah, it's Trick Room, Expanding Force as mentioned, then Heat Wave is just a really strong spread fire type option. Really, you're trying to minimize the amount of reads you have to make in Trick Room on Protect, so just going for spread moves kind of covers your spaces there, and off of Torkoal's Drought, the Heat Waves are just going to be doing lots of damage anyway, so you don't really need the high base power of Armor Cannon. Wide Guard is a really cool option, especially against Chi-Yu, which with the choice specs are often running the Snarl move, which can do a ton of damage to Indeedee and Armarouge if you don't cover for it. So in an open team sheet environment, if they lead Chi-Yu, you have the option to go for a Wide Guard and basically stuff that Snarl. Grass Terra type on Armarouge is just generally very strong. It both gives you a Spore immunity on Amoonguss, so they can't just lead like Chi-Yu, knock out your Indeedee, and then Spore the Indeedee, or Spore the Armarouge to deny Trick Room. If you have Terra Grass, you have that covered. And it's also just a solid defensive typing, removing most of Armarouge's weakness, and you actually don't gain a fire weakness because of your Flash Fire boost, although Ogerpon, Molt Breaker does fly in the face of that and knock you out, but outside of that, you're pretty covered with the Flash Fire Terra Grass combination. Indeedee is a Psychic Seed set with the kind of standard moves at this point. Follow Me to redirect for the Armarouge or the Hatterene to get Trick Room up. Trick Room if it finds the circumstance where it wants to be clicking it on its own. Dazzling Gleam as a Fairy type option to hit the Dark types that are often led against this Psychic spamming combination, and then Helping Hand as a really strong option to boost the damage of your spread attacks on any of the remaining Pokemon on your team. This Indeedee actually went for the Terra Dragon, which resists both grass and water, and then fire type moves, so all the Ogerpons except for the Rock one you have pretty covered. But yeah, it's just a really strong defensive Terra type because people try and just lead the Ogerpon, go for the Terra Fire, knock out the Indeedee, and then maybe knock out the Armarouge with their partner, but that is not an option if you go for Terra Dragon, which can definitely be the correct play in a lot of situations on turn 1. Once one of your lead Pokemon goes down, you want to bring in usually the Torkoal, just applying immense damage with the Eruption, and you can't be priority hit because of the Psychic Terrain on the field, which is just really good synergy there. The Torkoal is Charcoal, so you don't want to lock into choice specs if you are taking a hit on an Eruption and just weakening your damage considerably. Terra Fire to boost the power of the Eruption and the Heat Wave further, and then Earth Power is just generally strong coverage into things like Heatran, that would otherwise just wall your fire type moves, and then Clear Smog is pretty much just for Dondozo. It does have some other applications, but really if you play against a Dondozo, that's one of the few things that can actually pretty efficiently stall out your Trick Room turns. You need to be able to Clear Smog that away, so it's not that big of a factor. Going a little more out of order, I'll go Ursaluna as the 4th Pokemon. I think it's going to consistently be your 4th Pokemon instead of Urshifu or Hatterene, but there are situations when you go for the others. But yeah, just the general power of the Gut Swords Dance Facade, Terra Normal, just basically you're even knocking out resists after a Swords Dance is incredibly strong, and then Headlong Rush is hitting these Steel types, Rock types that would otherwise resist you. It's just a really strong Pokemon in the Trick Room, and Swords Dance is especially strong if your opponents try and play defensively and go for protects. You get the Swords Dance up, and then they're really wishing they had attacked that last turn. The last two Pokemon on the team are kind of mix-up options on lead. So Hatterene, if you do find your opponent has an option to knock out your Indeedee and then taunt the Armarouge, you have Hatterene as an alternative lead. They won't be able to taunt the Hatterene because of the magic bounce ability, and you're able to get a safe Trick Room out that way. The Hatterene's Terra is Terra Flying, which is really just to let you go for Terra Blast into basically Terra Flying Terra Blast into all the Ogerpon flying around. That's able to do immense damage. And you also have Psyshock, which hits the physical side on Ogerpon, which is a little weaker than the special, as well as knocking out Fluttermane, which Psychic would not be able to do. And the last move is going to be the Dazzling Gleam, just a generally strong coverage option, and Life Orb boosts all of these to pretty absurd levels. Hatterene has an incredible special attack stat, and of course Trick Room to be able to set up on lead. Last up is Urshifu Single Strike, which is I think the most interesting Pokemon on the team. We've seen very similar cores to this since honestly Regulation A. We've seen it evolve over time, seeing Lilligant get added, Lilligant Hisuian, and the most recent forms I feel like. But replacing that, just because the Sleep Powder is a little volatile. The after you sleep powder is definitely a strong fast mode, but I would say a little coin flippy, a little inconsistent. I do like the Urshifu here, having a really strong fighting type that you don't need to lead Torkoal with to be able to knock out dark types like Chi-Yu. U-turn out of pressure into a favorable back Pokemon. Wicked Blow does incredible damage, and in some fringe cases, go for taunts into something like an Amoonguss or maybe an Imprison Pokemon. It's just really valuable. Like the taunt into Farigiraf could definitely be super valuable, just because otherwise that can kind of imprison pretty freely on you on lead. So I do think that's mainly what the Urshifu is for. In terms of game plans with this team, outside of pretty fringe matchups, I think you'll be leading Indeedee, Armarouge with Torkoal and Ursaluna in the back pretty consistently. If you see a potential for your Armarouge to get taunted, you lead Hatterene instead, and then Urshifu in some fringe situations where you think they have a good like maybe an Imprison option against your team. With all that being said, if you enjoy these battles as well as the teams, please subscribe to the channel, and yeah, let's get into the battles. Okay, very cool from our next opponent. We have not a full mirror, but they do have Indeedee and Armarouge as well, but they have an Ogerpon, the Cornerstone form, Empoleon, Tornadus, and King Gambit. So enemy Armarouge are definitely an annoyance for this sort of team. I don't really think they have a quick knockout into my Indeedee, but the question is, like, can I handle them super well? And I don't think I can, honestly. Wide Guard's pretty good for me on Armarouge, actually. Like, I think it really does well into them. I do like Ursaluna quite a bit against all their Pokemon in the back. Torkoal is a little suspect against Armarouge, I'll be honest. Hatterene's not great against King Gambit, though. If I wanted to, I could get really aggressive and lead the Urshifu into the Indeedee Armarouge, which would be an option for sure. But I think I'm leaning against that. I think I'll go with the... I think I'll go Torkoal, just because Ursaluna's going to have to answer the Armarouge anyways. Like, if I haven't forced a Terra out of their Armarouge, then my Torkoal's not, or my Hatterene can't do much with any of its damage output outside of Terra Blast. Psychic would do decent damage in Psychic terrain, but not as much damage as like a Facade or a Headlong Rush would. So a lot of tricky matchups against for the Armarouge Indeedee combo. I think it has a bigger target on its back right now than it has in quite a bit of time. Not to the extent that we'll start seeing Ting lose or anything like that to counter it, but definitely super difficult to handle. Okay. Yeah, that's fine by me, actually. I think they're really tempted to just, go for like Trick Room of their own, honestly, but I have a pretty safe follow me Heat Wave here. And they could go for Terra, certainly. Like Terra Dark would be a little troublesome, but they can't stop, unless they're imprison Indeedee, they can't really stop me from going for Heat Wave. Looks like they're gonna Terra. like if I call this turn correctly, like if they mess up and go for a Trick Room, trying to basically reverse the Trick Room that I would go for, then they're falling into a pretty big trap. They did go for Follow Me though, so we could have gone for Follow Me, Trick Room, and then probably just clean them up, but you know, couldn't predict this play. Heat Wave gonna connect. I am faster, which is super valuable. They do Kowtow Cleave. That damage was a little low though. I'm not sure if that's I think that is Assault Vest. So I think we now bring in Torkoal, boost our damage output just a little bit. And that might be a little shy, honestly. That kind of looks like 45%. So a Heat Wave would now knock them out, I believe. But we would also be feeding their Armor Rouge, which is kind of annoying. I kind of want to go for Trick Room, Eruption here, or Heat Wave. But they might go for a Trick Room of their own this turn, I'm not sure. Like, I could go for Heat Wave, but I am very concerned about how the game progresses after this point. They didn't attack or switch, which I think was maybe what I was kind of worried about. Armor Rouge on their part switching in and then just like being a huge nuisance if I don't get Trick Room out this turn specifically. But they go for Follow Me on Ndidi, which is very good. I think I should live the Kowtow Cleave on the Armor Rouge, unless they're Black Glasses, which they are not. We do live. And we get the Heat Wave off, which is really, really nice. Okay. We don't knock either out, which is, I think, better. Because now we just go for Eruption, and actually we don't hold on to the Armor Rouge, even though it's threatening Expanding Force into a lot. If they bring in their own Armor Rouge and they have Wide Guard, they could really suppress our damage output, and they can. It's a pretty safe switch in here onto our Eruption, so we want to get our... basically get our Ursaluna in, get our Flame Orb activated, and so we have a free Headlong Rush knockout there. So I think the way... Like, I was expecting to go for Trick Room turn 1, but I could have gotten into that situation a lot safer if I had just gone for Trick Room Protect, or Follow Me Trick Room, based on their turn 1 play. But yep, yeah, we're just going to take a double knockout here with Eruption, fair enough. They don't have a lot of counterplay if they're Assault Vest, but I would think that Armor Rouge switch-in on their part would be pretty safe there. But although they could be, I guess, they could be a weak armor set next to U-Turn, Ogre Pawn, or Aqua Jet Empoleon, that would be something. Oh, it could be Choice Scarf, Flip Turn Empoleon, you know what? In which case they wouldn't actually have a fire, flash fire immunity. Yeah, definitely something to be paying attention to. If you see a water type next to an Armor Rouge plus... Oh yeah, they actually couldn't stand up to that ever. Okay, fair enough. No Wide Guard options for them. How many turns of Trick Room left? Couple. They do have Sturdy. I really don't think they threaten enough damage to win this battle though. I just go for Facade Eruption. I don't, like... They can Spiky Shield here for sure. Maybe Headlong Rush is a little safer for me into the Empoleon. But I don't think they have the damage output to knock out Ursaluna. Even if they had like gotten a little Spiky Shield chip off. Like Flash Cannon definitely isn't doing enough to Ursaluna. But yeah, we're just going to go through their Sturdy and then knock them out with the Facade. Yeah, they did get a lot of mileage off. Oh, Ice Beam, sure. But yeah, again, doing barely half. They got a little mileage off of the King Gambit in that they didn't just lose the game automatically, because I could have gone for another Heat Wave the next turn, but yeah, now that they have no defensive resources, it's pretty tough for them. Which kind of just like shows the strength of this team. Like, if they lead really in a specific way to beat your Armor Rouge, to stop your Trick Room setup, you can just not set up Trick Room. Armor Rouge isn't like the slowest Pokemon, so you're still outspeed like Min Speed, King Gambit, Iron Hands, things like that, and be able to get big damage off. So if they're just committed to you getting Trick Room up and you kind of offset when you set it up, you can definitely take people by surprise and just like sweep with Trick Room a little later than they were expecting it to be up. Okay, this battle we have a Fluttermane, Urshifu, Chi-Yu, Farigiraf, Amoonguss, and Landorus. So Farigiraf is actually kind of enemy number one for this kind of team because they can go for Imprison Trick Room and stop that from getting up. Let's think about what options we have to beat that though. Mainly we have the Urshifu to go for U-turn plus Wicked Blow into the Farigiraf, just knock it out essentially. But if they're Booster Energy Fluttermane, which I suspect they might be, that's a lot less effective. I think I actually like Hatterene as my lead here on some level. But it's kind of tough. Yeah, the issue is definitely Booster Energy Dazzling Gleam Flutter could be a huge nuisance for us. Dazzling Gleam in general is really annoying. Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna leave the... I think I'm gonna leave the Indeedee Armor Rouge behind. I expect Amoonguss Spore, like if they... Like Amoonguss plus Chi-Yu is like a reasonably likely lead from them. Because you just knock out the Indeedee with Dark Pulse or just go for a Snarl and then Spore the Indeedee, and that really slows down how the Trick Room can function. Because they don't knock out your Indeedee and they just have it sitting on the field at -1 and asleep, so you have to switch it out to make use of your Trick Room turns, which is again going to leave you open to another Snarl. So we see what they lead, and it is the Chi-Yu Fluttermane, fair enough. If they're Booster Energy, we're in a bit of trouble. A lot of the times people were... They are not, okay. The real issue here is I don't know, like Chi-Yu can be a number of things here. If they're Terra Ghost, we're in some big trouble. Yeah, Wicked Blow I don't think knocks out Fluttermane unless I go for Terra, like a Terra here. I think I might go for it though. Nah, I think I'm gonna close combat Terra Flying Trick Room. And if they Terra Ghost, they Terra Ghost. We're not seeing a Terra from them though. They could be Focus Sash on Fluttermane. They could be Choice Scarf on the Chi-Yu. If they're modest, they shouldn't outspeed me, but if they are timid, they would. Although I think we might actually be adamant Scarf Urshifu. Nope, we're going for close combat and does knock out Chi-Yu. We are now no longer weak to ghost type attacks, so a Shadow Ball will not knock us out unless they are max attack, max special attack, choice specs, and crit. Oh, interesting. Okay. So they do deny Trick Room, but at the cost of their Chi-Yu and my Terra. Room Service Fluttermane. That's so funny. Okay. I think I'm fine with that trade though. Like my Terra for all of Chi-Yu and them weakening their Fluttermane speed. Urshifu comes out. It's the fire one, or the water one. I think I have a pretty safe Trick Room attempt here, honestly. Although I could go for Dazzling Gleam, which is maybe a little better. I think almost certainly, right? Yeah, I think it's probably better to just go right for switch to Torkoal, and it's kind of interesting. I think Trick Room's a little better for me, honestly. Dazzling Gleam is like... I knock out Urshifu if they don't Terra. And it doesn't... If I survive the turn, I'm not worrying about the Trick Room mind game. Oh, we actually activate their Photosynthesis, which might have been a kind of a misplay. Yeah, they're Surging striking the Hatterene, which is doing like 20 per hit, 15-ish. So the special attack boost is probably going to let them knock me out if they go for Moonblast, but not if they go for Dazzle, I don't think. Yeah, nope. So that's really good for us. Aqua Jet won't knock us out at this point, so we should have a pretty safe Eruption plus Dazzling Gleam. I could go for Psyshock. Into the Hatterene, or the Fluttermane, just take that knockout. I think I might do that. I don't think it's necessary, honestly. Well, what I really don't want to do is just let them get my Urshifu in Trick Room alone next to Ursaluna, because I feel like the game could spiral at that point. So based on their moveset, it's somewhat likely they don't have Protect, so I'm just going to like go after that knockout if they're going to give it to me. And worst case, I get like an Eruption onto their... Oop, they're going for a Terra. Could be going for Terra Aqua Jet. Nope, Terra on the Fluttermane into water. Okay. That makes sense if they were trying to survive Eruption plus Dazzling Gleam. Yeah, they go for Aqua Jet. Even with a critical hit, I don't think that would have knocked out. This Eruption's going to chip their Urshifu, not too much actually. I wonder if that's Assault Vest. And now we're seeing the beauty of the Psyshock with Life Orb. Taking a knockout that Psychic definitely would not have done. With Psychic Terrain, maybe, but just off of neutral, the Psyshock dealing considerably more damage to the weaker special defense stat, or the weaker defense stat of Fluttermane. So a really smart choice there, and it is the... Oh boy, okay. Last up is the... For Rigorath, Eruption, I believe, is still doing more damage to them. And I just don't want to deal with them. Like, I think they have to Aqua Jet or Protect here. So they could threaten a knockout onto my Torkoal, but I do think Ursaluna should close this out. But maybe I should have switched my Hatterene into Ursaluna to get a Guts activation that turn. But I do feel like this is Assault Vest on the Urshifu, truthfully. Yeah, they go for Hyper Voice, and it does a lot, but not a knockout. Yeah, and there's the Hyper Voice. Throat Spray activation. I think I just go Ursaluna now. I'm not certain, but I feel like that's an Assault Vest Urshifu. But I honestly do not know if that will... Wow, okay. I don't know if that falls to... I don't think that drops to Facade, honestly. High Horsepower it probably would, but I don't want to... Headlong Rush. Headlong Rush is 100% accurate. I shouldn't have gone for that. Yeah, I think I misplayed this game pretty badly. Or this end game. I think Headlong Rush is 100% accurate into Urshifu, and I always go for that. Oh, they go for Drain Punch, so it actually shouldn't matter. But if they had gone for Close Combat, I believe that would have gotten maybe not a knockout, but pretty close to it. Maybe put me in range of Aqua Jet. But now we should always just like outstall and win after Trick Room ends. Facade is stronger than Headlong Rush, 140 base power after the burn, so this should be GG. The really bulky Assault Vest Urshifu is very interesting, and the Room Service Fluttermane, yeah, very cool team from them. But they weren't ready for the Choice Scarf Urshifu. Really strong tool in best of 1, but even in best of 3 open team sheet, it's kind of hard to handle. It really does cover exactly what you need it to, like forces Chi-Yu to play it more defensively, and then just give you options with the rest of your Pokemon to win. So we've actually played 3 battles that have been just like, felt like the teams are tailor-made to beat PsySpam, and we've still like had options on the team to cover them. So yeah, it's a really potent strategy, and just slapping a couple like knee-jerk options on your team aren't just going to automatically win the matchup for you. It's a very fundamentally sound team for the most part. All right, up against a rain team, we have Pelipper, Urshifu, Baxcalibur, Rillaboom, Iron Hands, and Goldango. I think this team is actually very well equipped to handle us. They have grassy terrain to stop psychic terrain, and they have Pelipper with potentially Wide Guard to stop Expanding Force, as well as turn off the sun. So I think they have a very cool team against ours. Cool, but not fun for us. Okay. Hatterene could be my option given the high likelihood of Wide Guard on Pelipper. So I think I might lean towards that. That does leave me very weak to Goldango on lead though, so I don't think I can afford to do that. I think it kind of has to be Ursaluna to cover for like sun or rain going up, because I can't just rely on Torkoal. I might be able to get a second Trick Room up, honestly, with Hatterene. Like, I'm considering just dropping the Torkoal, but their damage output might be a little too difficult to handle if I do that. I think I am going to go Hatterene. It's kind of weird not bringing your Weather Setter to the Weather Mirror, but I think the way this team... Like, when you're playing a Weather Mirror, you should be able to switch in your Weather Setter at the opportune time. And on a team like mine, there's like very predictable times when Torkoal is going to come in and they can exploit that in their game plan, so I don't want to fall into that trap if I can avoid it. So Goldango is led with Urshifu. Very glad I did not lead the Hatterene because I just would have gotten Make It Rained on, essentially. So they probably can net a knockout onto the... It'd be pretty funny to go like Heat Wave or Expanding Force turn 1 and Trick Room and just be like, you're gonna nasty plot Surging Strike while I go for Terra Grass on Armarouge and take a knockout and get Trick Room up, but lead like this when you don't know their specs Goldango or not, I think it's not worth the risk. Yep, and we see a Terra from them, so it could be the Terra Water. You know, they might... If they're Choice Banded, Surging Strikes might knock me out. So this is kind of inexperience with the team showing. I think I should live a Terra Water Choice Scarf hit because I'm max defense, but I'm not certain. 52 damage. Yeah, I should live that. Yep. Yep, so they did Terra out of their weakness to the Psychic type, but I think that's fine. Oh, that's not right. Yeah, now I think we have a pretty safe Helping Hand. We don't really have a very safe one, but I think we have a... I think I'm kind of fine going like Helping Hand, Heat Wave, or Expanding Force into the Armarouge, maybe? The problem is in the... I think I'm gonna actually go for Follow Me Heat Wave instead of like a big damage turn here. I'm gonna try and bait out their defensive switch, because it could be Rillaboom, yeah. It could be like Rillaboom Pelipper, in which case Expanding Force is probably better, but if it's just Rillaboom, then Heat Wave is just like demonstrably a lot stronger of a play for me. Yeah. So we're going for Follow Me, and we get a Heat Wave off into both if we connect, which is going to do a ton of damage. Yep, we do double connect. And we knock out Rillaboom in one hit. Was that a crit? No, it just wasn't Assault Vest on Rillaboom, so that's really nice because they can't go for Fake Out or a Grassy Glide, and they were Nasty Plot Goldango all along, so kind of interesting they didn't go for that turn 1. I think The roll on that Indeedee is pretty practiced. It's not going to knock out, and unless your specs, I don't believe Shadow Ball knocks out Armor Rouge. It has a pretty high special defense stat. But yeah, there goes the Urshifu. Oh, I actually didn't bring Torkoal. Yikes. Okay. So, what are we doing now? I could read them switching or like doing some manner of play, but I think my safest play is just like Heat Wave, follow me, force them to take a knockout. Like if they knock out my Indeedee, then I get in my other Pokemon, my Hatterene, and then I should just be able to go for Dazzling Gleam to end it. Dazzling Gleam, Psychic Terrain, or Psychic. Expanding Force, I feel like I don't know if Psyshock's gonna knock them out. I'm just trying to figure out a way to navigate this game where I don't have to risk a Heat Wave on the Goldengo. They're healing a lot of HP pretty slowly, but they're healing it. I think Hatterene's pretty solid here. Dazzling Gleam I don't think will knock out their Urshifu. I don't think Expanding Force knocks out either, though, without the Psychic Terrain. I do want to preserve my last. I think they might think that I have... Like, who could they have in the back? Could be Iron Hands. I think I go Dazzling Gleam, Heat Wave, and just hope I double connect, honestly. Like, ideally, I had navigated to a point where I could... Like, I don't want to bring an Ursaluna because then they can just, like, switch into their Pelipper as I go for Headlong Rush into that while I try and knock out the Urshifu with Expanding Force, which I don't think it would, to be clear. But yeah, they switch out. Yeah, that could be that switch I was talking about. There's Pelipper. I do feel like Dazzling Gleam plus Heat Wave has a decent chance to knock out with the Life Orb. No, I don't think so. Just shy on both. That's unfortunate. I could have Terra'd my Armor Rouge, but I did not. Big damage. But yeah, it would have been safer to just Terra the Armor Rouge there, but I was trying to preserve my resources a bit. And I think that might come in handy on the Ursaluna at the end of the day. We'll see though. Because Wide Guard kind of throws me for a loop here. We do have one turn of Trick Room left. They can't protect Urshifu as far as I'm aware. I feel like I always just Psyshock you and Facade. They healed so much with leftovers is the issue. I think I'll go Dazzling Gleam, Facade. If they Wide Guard, they Wide Guard. Yeah. I thought it could have been Headlong Rush there, but I didn't want to lower my defenses. Dang it. Okay. No, I think this might be fine, though. I should be able to Terra, because this won't knock out. That's why I didn't go for that. I think the Life Orb is actually hurting me more than it's helping me at this point. Below the Moon Ursaluna would have gotten it done. But their grassy terrain is super beneficial for me. A Water Terra would be so nice here on the Hatterene is the one issue though. So they stalled out my turns pretty nicely. Yeah, if I'd gone for Expanding Force instead, I would have won. But yeah, I just, they played that turn well. I think I now just go for Trick Room, Protect, and hope I live. They are leftovers, so they might not be able to knock out with Make It Rain. And that's kind of what we're counting on. But Terra Water would really be ideal here, because we would resist Make It Rain and any Hydro Pump if they went for that. Because just this protect is just very obvious. Yeah, they Shadow Ball. We have a high special defense stat. They go for Hurricane. I think we will live. Oh, we don't. Okay. That's really surprising. I really would have expected that not to have knocked out, but fair enough. So with Ursaluna in the back, now they just always like win with Surging Strike, so no point in playing out the game. But we couldn't have Terra'd out of that that double up. So they just like locked it down pretty effectively. I think then my correct play was to just knock out the Goldango and then win, or knock out the Urshifu with Headlong Rush and be like, okay, yeah, I guaranteed knock out this slot. If you switch to Goldango, I take Goldango. If you keep this in, that's fine. And then just kind of try and win the late game with Ursaluna or Hatterene, whichever they target with the Ursaluna the next turn, or the Urshifu the next turn. Like, I think my proper play was, yeah, Headlong Rush the Goldango, switch in, and then Urshifu comes in, they pick a knockout. They can get either one, most likely, but I think they probably lock into Surging Strikes. But yeah, no point in dwelling on it now. We got a new game ahead of us. It is the Roaring Moon, Iron Hands, Clefairy, Arcanine, Sinistcha, and Milotic. So yeah, that last team was one that had a lot of good defensive tools that was able to let them mitigate our damage output, namely the terrain stopping, because if we had Expanding Forest, that game would have ended a lot earlier. But not the case, and now we have a new team with none of that. They don't have the terrains, but they do have some solid options in Clefairy, Iron Hands, Sinistcha, Arcanine against our primarily special attacking team. They have some good defensive resist for that, so definitely have to be wary. So Rock Slide's always a concern when you're playing against Arcanine Hisuian form, as is Head Smash. I do think Torkoal is quite good though. I think we're just going to go with the standard few here. Something interesting, Roaring Moon, with Jawlock, it was always a knockout with the booster energy attack into even max defense in DD. But with Knockoff, it's actually not a knockout because of your Psychic Seed decreasing the base power of Knockoff to just the normal 65. So they go Roaring Moon, Arcanine. They're certainly threatening a lot of damage with Rock Slide, but I do think I kind of have a Terra here. Yeah, I feel like I just go Follow Me, Terra, Grass, and hope I don't flinch with Rock Slide. And their booster energy is going to be Attack. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I can't really risk them being Jawlock. So I'm just going to Follow Me, Trick Room, and hope that they're... Like, one option, if they are Jawlock, they can just Jawlock, Choice Band, Head Smash me, and I don't actually think I have another play. But we're hoping that they're not that, and they're leading Rock Slide flinch option. But they do force a Terra with this, which is kind of an issue. Yeah, it is knockoff. Doesn't knock out, like I was saying. Yeah, there is the Rock Slide. So one play I was considering was like Wide Guard Trick Room, because it covers them being knockoff a bit better and doesn't like rely on me not flinching here, but we don't flinch, so we're kind of chilling. Now we go Ursaluna. I actually think that's Assault Vest Arcanine, honestly. Interesting. I do like Expanding Force plus... Honestly, Headlong Rush is not bad into the Arcanine. Maybe Swords Dance is better though. And then I sweep with Torkoal and friends, but I don't know if that's right. It feels reasonably likely they just go for switch out to Clefairy. Okay, they don't. So they would have given me the Arcanine, which is a tad annoying. They would have given me either, actually. Headlong Rush maybe doesn't knock out Roaring Moon, but it probably gets pretty close. Could be Will-O-Wisp here. Yeah, that lives. Oh, Rock Slide, totally fine. I thought they were Assault Vest. Okay, fair enough. They take my... yeah, they take my Armarouge, which is fine. Obviously would have liked to get a little more out of my PsySpam mode, but we do get the Swords Dance up, and now we're kind of ready to cook. We just go for Eruption here, and then Facade the Arcanine slot in case they switch. Roaring Moon could go for Protect. I don't think it does. I mean, I think it does go for Protect. So although we could knock that out, we want to just cover this slot. Eruption knocks out Sinistra. Facade knocks out the rest. No reason to go for that. Yeah, they protect Roaring Moon. I guess they could be Protect on Arcanine based on that damage. Like, I do think Rock Slide should have been doing a little more damage to my Armarouge, their choice band. So I'm not quite sure what's going on that Arcanine. Be interesting to find out. But yep, there's our boosted Facade going off into Protect. We haven't burned Terra yet, so they don't know that we are not the more common Ghost Terra on Ursaluna. Who's it gonna be? My Lotic, okay. I'll be honest, I'm not really that concerned about my Lotic. Like, I feel like Eruption Facade is still just very good damage-wise into Roaring Moon. They can't burn me. They could Hypnosis. Like, I'm not sure if I'm missing anything on... Like, they could be Haze, actually. Haze Milotic would be, like, something. And I'm still holding on to my Terra, maybe incorrectly. But yeah, we're getting an Eruption off into their switch in. It's going to be the Sinistra. If they're not Focus Sash, Alkaberry, or Heat Proof, this will knock them out. And on a team like this, I'd really expect it to be Hospitality. Yeah, that's just gone. It's kind of a questionable bring in my opinion. Like, you'd have to be very confident that you can handle the Torkoal like very quickly in Trick Room if you want to bring Sinistra, because that definitely does handle the Ursaluna with Matcha Gotcha plus Strength Sap healing up a fair bit. Like Matcha Gotcha healing probably a lot of HP back and doing a ton of damage, and Strength Sap healing you back to full. But I think at this point we do just go for... Oh, we've already Terra'd. I'm a silly goose. Okay. Yeah, I think we just go for Eruption, Facade into the Milotic and hope that they don't... Yeah, they haven't Terra'd yet. Yeah, they don't protect Roaring Moon, which fair enough, but I think the damage is kind of done. Oh, that's a crit, so... That's obviously ideal because it guaranteed that another Eruption will knock them out, and I don't think a knockoff will knock out my Ursaluna. Yeah, Acrobatics not even close, way too bulky. Even giving them the Photosynthesis boost. But yeah, that ends, and now Weirdness also ends, but given the crit, we now just knock out with Eruption, and Facade always knocks out as well. So we do clean up from there. So that was kind of just like a textbook game. Even though we didn't even get a Protect read right, we got Swords Dance because they weren't threatening a ton of damage. And just won from there. Yeah, maybe if they had acrobatics crit last turn, they could have won, but definitely not now. Boom, big hit into Torkoal. So maybe predicting a protect, but yeah, it's never gonna come. We always just double target there and close it out. Since Roaring Moon, I guess, could have gone for Earthquake, but taking out Chip of Burn is like not how I address that anyway. So yeah, not. They're probably just desperation, hoping for a crit, and maybe for some reason I protect Ursaluna, but not the case. All right, first battle of Master Ball tier. We're actually playing against Fortnite's own Ninja. So Tornadus, Rillaboom, Fluttermane, Como-o, Urshifu, and Chien-Pao from Ninja. Very cool. I'm not sure if this is the... No, it's not the Como-o team I featured, but it's probably going to be the Clangorous Soul one rather than the Body Press one on an offensive team like this. I do think these kind of teams are a little weak to Trick Room, particularly the Torkoal aspect of it. I do think Indeedee is a pretty safe lead for me. Like they could be Crunch. Let's think. If they are Crunch on the Chien-Pao, they can knock out Indeedee. I kind of like... I do still like Armarouge a fair bit. I think these three are definitely brings, and then as my last, who am I trying to cover for? Torkoal destroys Rillaboom unless they Terra. Kind of does a lot to Como-o too. So if they Terra Rillaboom, I want to have that covered with Ursaluna ground type moves. So, yep, lock in. This is really the kind of team you're expecting and hoping to see with a Trick Room team, is just like really offensive Tailwind. A lot of the times they'll have a couple of choice item Pokemon on the team, which is really ideal. As we saw, the one battle we lost was like a Goldango that would have been more immediately threatening with Shadow Ball Choice Specs or something, but ultimately the Protect set was a lot scarier just because they were able to heal a lot with leftovers and kind of stall out our own Trick Room. Whereas the more offensive teams with the choice specs, as long as you navigate around those early turns and then you just set up your Trick Room, you're able to defeat them pretty quickly. So it is Indeedee Armarouge against them. That's interesting. Why would they lead that if they were not in prison? Is my question. Booster Energy, Special Attack. Okay. Could be Taunt. I feel like that's gotta be in prison, right? Why else would you lead that? If they imprison, do I have any way to come back? Probably not if they go for Clangorous Soul. Kind of just want to get after it, honestly. They can actually just switch to Rillaboom, huh? I think I probably should have Expanding Force after the Como-o or gone for a Heat Wave instead. But no, they're not actually switching to Rillaboom, so. And no Terror from them, so if they did not double up here, like, I think we're in a pretty good spot. This is kind of like one of the bigger mix-ups with this sort of team in Best of 1 is like, if you're worried about Imprisoned Trick Room, your turn 1s become really questionable, so you can kind of just like, okay, go aggressive on your own, but they do end up going for Clangorous Soul plus a Dazzling Gleam, which is really questionable in my opinion, because if I didn't Terra, I would have taken a half, I would have taken a fourth of my HP and gotten Trick Room up. So yeah, kind of an interesting play from them. I should just be getting a double knockout here, so I'm not complaining. Yeah, we do just take the double knockout against Fortnite's own Ninja. Alright. So yeah, double knockout, but we did take a bit of chip damage. We didn't get Trick Room up, which I think I would have preferred there. Urshifu comes in. And Rillaboom comes in. Okay, so they are threatening Fake Out now, which is a bit of a concern. But they didn't Terra. I think I'm actually more concerned with preserving my Indeedee than anything. Like, I think switch to Torkoal is pretty good here. And then get Trick Room up if I can, but if not, no sweat. Although maybe it should have been switched to Ursaluna. Nah, I've forgotten they have not Terra'd yet, so I do have to be worried about Terra Fire on their Rillaboom. Yeah, they're going for a Terra on their Ursh. Yeah, trying to resist the Psychic moves, which is fair. And get as much damage as they can, which makes sense, but... Yep, there is Fake Out into Torkoal, which isn't doing a ton. We're going to heal a lot of that back. And they go for Surging Strikes. Okay. Into... Yeah, that's... I guess they don't have Close Combat, or they're Choice Scarf, and they just needed to lock in. Either way, I'm happy with that. Because now I get Trick Room up, and I get my Torkoal in. I can go for Eruption onto the Rillaboom, take that knockout, and then... Actually, you know what? That's not even necessary. I just can pretty safely switch into my Indeedee, turn off their terrain. I don't have to take a grassy terrain hit, and then go for Expanding Force. Knock out the Rillaboom. Yeah, they cancel. They kind of see the writing on the walls. There's like 10 different ways I could crack that nut, and they don't want to see which one I choose. All right, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of like a showcase of exactly how you need to play that team. Or not. It's a showcase of like how well it can go when you get a Tailwind matchup like that. Is like, we got Trick Room up later in the battle than we even needed to. Like, we could have gone for Trick Room turn 1. A lot of the Tailwind teams don't have an Imprison Flutter main, but on a ladder environment, it's definitely scary when they lead like that. But we kind of like got turn 1 wrong, but we still like kind of destroyed them. Okay, last one of the day in Master Ball tier, we have Tornadus, Ogerpon, Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, Landorus, and Rillaboom. I think this is kind of exactly what we want to see against, like in terms of matchups. I think we're just going to roll with exactly what, like the basics on this team are. Outside of an Imprisoned Fluttermane or a very slow Rillaboom, I think we consistently get Trick Room up against this. Yeah. We do have maybe... The only thing I would worry about is a Chien-Pao Ogerpon lead, because we don't know if they can knock us out. Like if they're Ice Spinner, then we don't want to Terra Dragon. Okay, but that's a fine lead for me. Unless they are min speed on the Rillaboom. They aren't, that's why we run a slower Indeedee, so we don't have to worry about their Rillaboom underspeeding and getting Psychic Terrain up. You know, on some level we could play this pretty aggressively and go for Terra Dragon on our Indeedee, but I don't think that's really necessary on this lead. I think we always just go for Follow Me Trick Room, and they don't exactly have a good play to cover for it. And to knock out our Indeedee, they have to go for a Terra of their own, which is, I think, pretty favorable for me. Yep, there's Chien-Pao. They will be able to threaten Sucker Punches in a second, though. Yep, so there's the Terra. They will be knocking out my Indeedee if they go for that. I mean, if they go for the Ivy Cudgel, which I don't see why they would not. But definitely could have been an interesting argument for going for Helping Hand Psychic, or Helping Hand Expanding Force, just to take the knockout onto that. And if they hadn't switched in Chi-Yu, he would have knocked out the switch in. But I think Trick Room's just a lot more consistent of a turn for us. So there is the Ivy Cudgel. I'm pretty sure this knocks out. Yep, especially with the Sword of Ruin boost. Fair enough. Okay. Now though, they actually can't really damage our Armor Rouge very much. Yeah. It's an interesting position for me. I think Ursaluna is pretty interesting. So the fact they have Psychic, they can overrun my Psychic terrain in the back is kind of annoying. Probably not the end of the world. I think I want to pressure them to basically get a Protect up. Or like go for double Protect this turn essentially by getting my Ursaluna in this turn. Yeah, I can't get a double knockout, which is problematic for sure. I don't think Sucker Punch knocks out Armor Rouge, honestly. But I don't think I gain much by holding on to my Terra here. Like, I think it could very easily be switched to Rillaboom on the Ogre Pawn and Sucker Punch. Or Fake It. Like, it could be Fake Out too. But I think Heat Wave Facade is a little better of a play for me. Although maybe it should have been into Rillaboom. But I think like Spiky Shield, attack with Chien-Pao, or protect Chien-Pao, switch to Rillaboom are both reasonably likely plays, so I just like tried to cover, or switch to Rillaboom, Sucker Punch are both reasonably likely plays, so I tried to cover the Sucker Punch option. And yeah, it was the Sucker Punch option. But notably, it wouldn't have knocked us out. Good to know for future games, but yeah, just really trying to cover my bases there. We do miss Heat Wave onto Chien-Pao, unfortunately. We do crit the Rilla though, so I think all in all, kind of fair. I feel like we're in range of Fake Out Sucker now though. Yeah, that Heat Wave miss was pretty bad and did Chien-Pao. Otherwise, I'd really threaten a knockout on the rest of their team. Okay. I think I actually like Protect, Switch. Yeah, I like Protect Switch here because I don't want to play the mind games with Fake Out Sucker Punch. Like, I could Wide Guard in the face of Fake Out as they Fake Out or Grassy Glide Sucker Punch me, but I think Torkoal covers most attacks into the Armor Rouge slot. They could be going for Grassy Glide this turn, which I want to have handled by an Eruption. Oh, they switch out. Okay. So that's really annoying because Chien-Pao is like going to be the thing to handle me in the later game. Oh my goodness, okay. I mean, that's probably a Choice Scar, so it's not the end of the world. But it's definitely not ideal. Yeah, they Fake Out into the Torkoal, which is fair enough. We're going to heal most of that off, and I think we kind of just have a knockout into the Lando if they're not Choice Scarf. Or if they are Choice Scarf. We have 2 turns of Trick Room left. Honestly, I could just switch into... like Facade. Eruption is good, I think. They do get the Grassy Glide off though, right? Okay, they're switching. So they're giving me one of their Pokemon, which is kind of an interesting call. They have Terra. Okay, Chien-Pao goes. Grassy Glide into the Torkoal. That's an odd play. That's a very odd play. Okay. I'm not really sure what they're thinking there. But we do finally get the Chien-Pao after missing the Heat Wave. Can't complain too much about the Heat Wave missing, but it was pretty consequential. So glad we found the KO somehow. But yeah, not letting Chien-Pao come in to let them knock out the Armor Rouge feels kind of like a blunder. Because now I think I just Facade the Lando and Eruption and I still should win the game. Like if they'd have to be Terra Flying Protect, which isn't like so unlikely. But if they are, I don't think I can do much about it. Yep, I am -2. But because I've already burned my Terra, I don't think it actually does me any good to preserve my Ursaluna, just because they'll always be able to Horn Leech knock me out, or Woodhammer if they have it. Yeah, so I think this is just Eruption Facade. I think they were trying to weaken me to where Eruption Facade doesn't knock out their maybe Assault Vest Lando, but we'll see. Yeah, it was an Assault Vest. You're never intimidating my Ursaluna enough for it to not do enough damage. I think -6 would have done that much. Probably would have done triple that. But yeah, now the Ivy Cudgel into my Ursaluna, which in Sun, in Body Aspect, that's going to clean up, but now their only damage into my Armor Rouge is going to be Horn Leech or Power Whip or Woodhammer, which is fine. Yeah, that's totally fine. So something important to remember about Ogerpon is, although it has a Mold Breaker ability before it goes for the Terra, after it goes for the Terra, it no longer does. So I think we've actually reached the point where, yeah, I have them covered pretty well. Yeah, they would have had to crit. Granted, that did a lot of damage in grassy terrain and would have knocked out if they crit. But even then, like, I'm pretty sure I'm beating them with Earth Power here in the late game. Like, they wouldn't need an Ivy Cudgel crit into Torkoal and a crit onto the Armor Rouge to win. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised about how they played that in game. Like, I feel like they definitely went for a lot of risks, and the Sucker Punch wouldn't have even knocked out the Armor Rouge. I feel like when you have, like, you are at your best equipped to handle a Trick Room team when you have 2 Protect Pokemon on the field, and they did, and they kind of forfeited the position to give me a Heat Wave onto their Chen Pao, break their Sash as well as a Facade, and a Heat Wave onto their Rillaboom instead of just like fully wasting a turn with Spiky Shield Protect, and they could have done the same play the next turn, so. Yep. I guess, I mean, if I'm headlong rushing your, like, I did bait that play out to an extent by bringing in the Ursaluna in the previous turn instead of the Torkoal, but you know, the point kind of stands. Us stalling out the turns probably would have won the battle a little more consistently than going for the Sucker Punch read. But yeah, so that is going to do it with. So that will do it for our battles featuring Tom Hayden 7-0 at the Beastcoast LAN PsySpam team. It's a really strong Trick Room team. I really like the Urshifu. We only brought it like once or twice, but when it did come, it was definitely fulfilling its role of just handling the more fringe anti-Trick Room options. And yeah, the Torkoal, Ursaluna, of course, were the MVPs, sweeping Trick Room in the back after the Armor Rouge, or the Hatterene got Trick Room up with its with their trusty friend Indeedee setting up Psychic Surge and Follow Me to ensure that Trick Room went up. I definitely recommend trying this team online on the ladder. It's a really beginner-friendly team, as well as a lot of potential for mastery. So really strong for players of all levels, especially climbing early Battle Stadium season, just because it does have like a pretty strong newbie stomping mode, as well as just having the potential to play against stronger players as well. So yeah, check that out. Pokepaste in the description with the EV spreads, as well as the rental code in the top right of the screen. If you enjoy these videos as a resource, please subscribe to the channel. And yeah, with all that being said, peace y'all.